Hi, everybody. So today we're going to talk to Dr. Elizabeth, and she's been kind enough to come here and speak with us today. And what we're going to talk about is how a lot of us are going through the process of letting go of baggage. So we're letting go of the old mentally and spiritually, but now we also need to think about our body and how that applies to this time. So I'm going to let Dr. Elizabeth talk about that today. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, yeah, this is a big topic. As a holistic practitioner, I try to always look and navigate the multiple aspects of what's going on. You're looking at the body, the emotions, the energy system, the spirit, and how each of those areas influences each other. And obviously, with all of the stuff energetically that's going on the planet right now, that does all end up having a trickle down effect, of course, into the physical body. As many of you know, you can feel the symptoms or have symptoms come when there's different shifts in the Schumann frequency or different portals opening, whatever that can be. Sometimes people's physical bodies are going to respond in different ways. Some people get surges of energy and clarity and feel amazing. Other people feel like death, can't move, are in a lot of pain or digestive symptoms or whatever that is. And so there is a lot to that. As we work on the higher levels, meaning the spiritual levels and the trickle down effect that has on the body, especially in the physical body, things do need support in helping to shift whatever those changes that are coming down from above. And that's always the hardest part, I think, is the physical body, because of the density of it. And the timeline of it is just, we've got this 3D, maybe shifting multi-dimensionality, but still physically our body's mainly in 3D, and we have limitations of time and limitations of matter. And these things just kind of take time. So even though a lot of times we're trying to work on stuff on the quantum level,
right,
sometimes the physical body can't always adjust as quickly as we would like with some of the things that we are doing. So as we work on clearing emotions, a big element that often comes up in the physical body is the release of toxins. And we're on planet Earth, so we're exposed to toxins. We've been exposed to toxins throughout our life, and our body does what it can to adapt and deal with the level of toxicity we have. And, probably a lot of us were not super conscious about toxicity until later in our life, unless you were lucky enough to be born into a family that had some consciousness about it. So we have a lot of stored levels of toxicity in our body, from heavy metals, synthetic estrogens, pesticides, fertilizers, other hormone-like products. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of things that our body is exposed to.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times with things like heavy metals, these things have a very strong negative charge polarity-wise, and it requires something kind of large to dislodge that charge, because a lot of times these things just kind of hide out and the body is sequestering them as a means for survival. It's not like the toxins are just floating around in the blood and then you take some clay or something and the body's like, oh, okay, thanks. A lot of these toxins are sequestered, and you either have to be very mindful and do things specifically to liberate these toxins, or these toxins can be liberated when we're doing higher levels of work in the spiritual realms and in the emotional realms. And then we've got the physical realm too. So as these toxins get released, if the body is unable to process them and help move them out, if our detoxification channels, mainly the gut, the kidneys, the breath, if any of these kind of systems are just kind of gummed up or clogged up, it can be rather uncomfortable, because the body may absorb these toxins that just got shaken up to be liberated.
Right.
Often want to look at many supportive detox strategies to help the body deal with these toxins that have been liberated. And these can be things like toxin binders, which are usually chemical substances of some kind, like charcoals, chlorellas, fulvic humic acids, maybe zeolites, things like that, that have a particular charge or have an ability to absorb and hold many, many more times their weight in toxins. These get bound in complex steps so that they can be released. But we also want to look at things like, obviously, hydration is a huge component. And I think I think a lot of people think, well, hydration is just drinking a lot of water, but there's quite a bit more that goes into hydration than just that. You ideally want to make sure your water is at a high level of consciousness and vitality and vibration itself. Water from spring water has that movement. It's out in nature. It's exposed to the sounds of nature. It's exposed to sunlight. It's exposed to moonlight. So, spring water often can have a nicer and higher effect because of that versus, your tap water, which though it may or may not be purified or cleaned, it's fairly dead water from an energetic sense. So we might want to be looking at things to help our water work better.
Yeah.
Adding electrolytes during these types of periods are huge. Electrolytes are the spark plugs that make everything work at the cellular level. And electrolytes help your water to work better. So adding salts, potassium salts, sodium chloride, magnesium salts, things like that can also be really, really good. Depending on people's different genetic and epigenetic expression, we might need to work on things like methylation support or help give support to detoxification genes, things like that. A lot of times we'll use, there's so many things that you could use, but it's always nice to look to the plant world for those types of things and use things like milk thistle, dandelion, chlorophylls, things like that. I'm a big proponent of using essential oils. I use a lot of energy medicine in the form of homeopathy, color therapy, vibrational therapies, things like that. So then we have a lot of tools at our disposal. It just then kind of becomes a matter of figuring out what are the best tools that my particular body needs and giving your body the right kind of support. You may need some trial and error to figure out what you need, but also being able to kind of go with the flow of it, because as you detox, it's like peeling an artichoke.
Onion. An artichoke. Yeah.
To the heart. I know everybody uses the onion, but I had a dear friend that used the artichoke and peeling the artichoke to get to the heart, which I kind of love that. And just really learning to tune into the body as best as you can and kind of go with the ebb and the flow of what it's needing from a day-to-day or moment-to-moment basis. But I do feel that supporting the physical body it's really crucial, because this is where we're at. We're in the physical body. And as we're working on the spiritual and energetic and mental and emotional realms, our physical body has to then kind of deal with whatever we're doing and learn to adapt and learn to work with us. And we have to work with our physical body. So a lot of support for it is really important. And just, these are things that don't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. Grounding, going outside and walking in the grass is huge. Huge for the negative ion aspect of it. Negative ions are really crucial to help the body with its overall energy and to help with detoxification. Epsom salt baths, fulvic acid baths, Exercise and movement, of course, are huge because the lymphatic system does not have its own pumping mechanism. You have to move the lymphatic system in order for things to be processed through. So movement's always a crucial component for
And that's where fascia release comes in.
Well, fascia stuff is always really interesting, as you know. I was always taught that, every organ holds emotion, every, tissues hold emotions, but fascia is really where the emotions are stored. And of course, the entire body is covered in fascia.
And will you talk a little bit about how, what you understand about the fourth density or the fourth stage of water? So my downloads and what I've been really getting is the fascia, so the emotions from many lifetimes locked in the bone, in the organs, deep, deep down. So then all the fascia release, the things that I've been able to heal and release, I've seen that. But now I'm understanding from just anything, dry brushing, rolling on the roller, even the superficial fascia is moving the lymph. So if there's stuck lymph in there and you're not doing stuff like that, think how long it's really been stuck. Then I go to the fourth stage of water because that's where fascia is. That's where the memories are, or this is what I've been shown. I just want to hear what your side of it is or what your take on that is.
Well, my current understanding, we've all been taught in school that there's 3 phases of water: solid, liquid, and gas. And recently it's kind of come to light that there's a 4th phase, and I think it's kind of more like a plasma phase, I believe they call it. Dr. Thomas Cowan, Cowan has written a really nice book on that. And his book, I believe, is about the connection between this 4th phase of water and cancer. There's a lot there as far as the body's ability to adapt and the body's ability to be well and maintain homeostasis has a lot to do with this 4th phase of water, because much of our body is in this 4th phase of water, and different things like toxins and heavy metals and emotions and things can change the structure of the water in our body and make it so that the body cannot express health as much as it is supposed to. Things like a fever, a lot of people are like, okay, hopefully people have the consciousness that the fever is good, that the body is having a fever for a good reason. But we've always been taught that, the fever is the body heating up to kill off pathogens, which may or may not be true. But another thing that I've read is that the body is having a fever to change more of the phase of the water in our body to assist with the detoxification process that's happening and the elimination of these toxins. Because what a lot of people call illness is actually the body exposed to some type of toxin or trying to detox and is having a difficulty doing. So the body will express these different symptoms as it's trying to change the water in the body to aid in the release of whatever the toxins are that the body is trying to deal with.
Which are most from an emotional, everything physical has an emotional connection somewhere. And that's where it's being expressed from. But how you are saying it, that's exactly how I see it. And that's how and why I see mucus is the carrier part of that 4th stage of water through our body, whether it be your lungs, your poop, your digestion, every bit of it is some type of mucus and some consistency. It might have a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that. But that is what's carrying all these toxins, quote unquote, out of our bodies.
Yeah, mucus is a big carrier and liberator for the toxins. Yeah, absolutely.
And even you said after you got the C, that was like your biggest thing. You talked about that to me a couple of times about the mucus, mucus. And so it started clicking. Everybody was saying that to me. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's carrying stuff out. This is part of what has to happen.
I need to ponder about that a little bit more with my own experience with the mucus, because I wasn't having like nasal congestion and runny nose. I was having post-nasal drip, which was very triggering, very PTSD, only because with both of my pregnancies, I had such severe postnasal drip and hyperemesis gravidarum, the hypervomiting syndrome. I mean, with my first one, I puked multiple times a day, every day for the entire pregnancy. And it was pretty traumatic. And then with the second one, I also started down that road, and I did, oh man, after my first one, I had made a list of like 40 things that I hadn't thought of when I was pregnant with my first child that I was gonna do for the second one. And I went through that list pretty fast, and I was like, oh no. So it was interesting for me with the C, because it didn't really present like a typical respiratory infection. It didn't present like, it was kind of like bronchitis, but not really. It wasn't like a cold. It wasn't like a flu for me. And then I developed postnasal drip through part of it and vomited 8 times one day. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I was just trying to support my body through it. But what was interesting to me, I mean, I don't have a clear answer for me on the postnasal drip and the vomiting and the pregnancies, except that hormones were radically different. Could have also been an immune type response, but I don't have postnasal drip if I get a cold or a flu or bronchitis. It's only if I'm pregnant, and apparently only if I have the Rona. But I will say that when I got the Rona, I got my period, and my period is like clockwork. And when I got the Rona, I got my period 2 weeks early.
See,
so
that's what I mean.
Wonder about in between hormones, if something was happening with my endocrine system. I don't know.
And it was detoxing all of that. Like, that's what big part of what this is. People's bodies going from carbon-based to crystalline, they have to detox down to the molecular structures that people don't have any clue about, but it's happening whether they know it or not. To everybody who's got it, if you accept it and then you have intentions you set and you know that's what it's doing, or if you get it and your belief system is sick and you're going to go down that path, you know?
Yeah, it was very interesting because, I mean, normally if I get like a bronchial thing or flu, I'll spike a real high fever and I'll just write it out. I'm like, okay, hey, you know, we're going to have this fever, sweat up, I'm doing a big tox. Great. I had like maybe a 1 degree fever for like an hour a day for like 3 or 4 days. It was very bizarre. Definitely did not present like a typical infection. So I don't know, it was really weird. I'm still kind of pondering all of that. But regardless of, you know, its origins and what it's doing, ultimately, I do feel it has the ability to serve a greater purpose and help with detoxification and help with the ascension process. And you're right, it's layers. It's layers, and a lot of times with traditionally detox, you know, we work on the channels of detoxification first and make sure they're open. And then we work on detoxifying the matrix, and then we work on detoxifying the cells. There's kind of like an order, so you don't overwhelm the body and create more problems than what you're trying to solve by undergoing a detoxification program. But it doesn't always, you know, work in those nice little orderly systemic types of things here. And I feel like, especially with the fascia, there's just so much that's stored in there, and it can be it obviously is uncomfortable as the body is trying to navigate that. But the matrix and the fascia they're also such light containing and light emitting structures.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
probably why there's that kind of level of profoundness when we're working with them. Because as beings of light, and we're working on the 3D parts of the body that are kind of the big emitters and receptors and antennas for light, as we work on activating that and clearing that out, I mean, that can cause some really, really big things.
Right.
So what do you suggest people do that's like first? So something that they should do first to help their body process, would it be to open the pathways, to start to research that, or?
Man, that's going to be a hard one for me. The way I practice is extremely individualized. So I usually just ask the body these types of questions. Where do we want to start? Because even though I can have like these ideas and, well, everybody should start with this and this and this, sometimes the body's like, no, let's just go here instead type of thing.
Right.
I think, cleaning up your immediate environment, because one thing we want to do is decrease the current toxic load that we're doing. So you want to eat as clean as well as you can. Try to eat a diet that is promoting health and not robbing health, and that could be different for everybody.
Mhm.
Try to zhuzh up your water a little bit. Even something as simple as getting I think it's called a zero water pitcher, like $30
Yeah.
on Amazon, and that's what we're using right now. And then I have like tumbled quartz and citrine and rose quartz and amethyst in the bottom of the pitcher to give a little bit of vibrational support. I mean, that's something that's really inexpensive to do. We also charge our water on organite plates. That's going to be a little more expensive, but getting a $30 water pitcher and a handful of, tumbled clear quartz for $5-10, that's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Putting more good salt into the diet with something like sea salt or Redmond real salt would be
Mhm.
very good to do. Start phasing out any toxic chemicals that you're using in your home and switch them out with more non-toxic options. So clearing out toxins out of the immediate environment. Number 2, I'd say, would be to start moving. Because a lot of people are sedentary and just don't move enough. And if you don't have that movement in place, you can like shake up all these toxins, and the body's like, okay, I'm gonna start dumping all this stuff. But then if you're not moving, then it's stagnant and it's just gonna sit in there, and then it's gonna reabsorb, which you
Right.
definitely don't want. So starting some type of movement practice, and it doesn't mean, starting to run miles a day. I mean, it could be, you got to pick exercise that's honoring of where your body is at for that particular session. Sometimes the body's going to want higher movement, more dynamic exercise. But if you're asking a lot of your body during a detox program, and you may, you're putting some stress on the adrenals and you're putting some stress on the body, you may need to do something more gentle, like walking and stretching, gentle yoga, things like that. I'm a very big proponent of tuning into the body and finding out kind of where the body is as far as exercise that day versus strictly adhering to like kind of one type of program and pushing through.
Yeah.
Because, I got to do this much on the treadmill or lift this many weights or whatever. You want to work with your body. Yes, sometimes you got to push yourself and your body a little bit, but there's a difference between pushing it just a little bit to see if you can do that little bit more versus, hammering on your physical body day by day with really dishonoring exercise programs. But movement's really, really important. Trying to get out in the sun, depending on where you live, that may or may not be always possible, but trying to get out in the sun for at least 20 minutes, trying to do some grounding. Those are all things that are going to be very helpful as starting points.
Mm-hmm.
I think many people do need help with additional supplementation. I use muscle testing, energetic testing to help dial in what that is specifically for that person. but so that's a little bit tricky to advise.
Yeah,
Let's,
maybe seek out their local naturopath or herbalist or somebody.
yeah, or chiropractor that does muscle testing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of chiropractors do muscle testing. And then progressing, dry skin brushing, like Anna mentioned, is, I mean, very, very powerful, inexpensive. Moving the lymph is not about force. It's that's what's so interesting about it is, you know, there's massage and there's, you know, the deep, hard kind of massage where therapists are trying to like break up tension and break up knots and things like that. And that may or may not work for muscles, but the lymph requires a much gentler approach. It's very just light, very, very light, soft stroking movements with the brush. The biggest key is just to always remember to work towards the heart.
Right.
Because the big ducts for the lymph system, that's where they drain into. So you always want to kind of just gently move everything towards to the heart, but either doing it like this or doing it with a dry skin brush. We have a protocol we use in the office with these phototherapy patches. That's a really powerful way to do it. Doing it with oils, doing it with crystals. I mean, there's so many different ways you can work on the lymph and the fascia and all that. It's kind of fun, but definitely starting to get into a routine of doing that, a little bit of that every day.
Yeah.
And
That's
I like
great.
to combine either intentions or blessings for the body when doing that kind of work. And, you know, and just telling the body how wonderful it is and how grateful you are for everything it's done for you. And, oh, body, you're just so amazing. And I'm strong. And, you know, I love my body, whatever it is. But combining the physical movement with some of the intention and blessing and emotional, energetic pieces can be really, really powerful too.
Yeah. Yeah. We spend a lot of time looking at our body and not appreciating our body. So it's great advice to start caring about your body because it's your vehicle, you know?
Yep. Yes. And it's the one we got. So you better take care of it.
So, well, I really appreciate you coming here and speaking to us today. I just feel like that was really good advice and something where everybody can start on something if they're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to share with anyone or with everyone?
You know, I think the biggest thing is I think a lot of us that are on this spiritual path and we're trying so hard to raise our level of consciousness and keep our vibration high and keep our bodies healthy. Sometimes it can be a little discouraging when symptoms come up and we try to, you know, sometimes we might try to tap things away or get frustrated with why am I feeling this way again? I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. You know,
No.
a headache, wake up with a headache. You're like, really? Why? Why does this keep happening or whatever? And just trying to hold space for yourself and be patient and remember that it's a process and that this too is another thing that's going to flow and eventually is going to resolve, and to just kind of learn to be with it. Not everything has to be fixed. Not everything's a problem. One of the things they teach is that symptoms are the body communicating with us, you know? And so, you know, spend some time as far as trying to maybe get the message, but don't get stuck in an obsessive place about, you know, what are these symptoms? Why are they here? Why am I not better? Did I screw up again? You know, there's so much going on the planet right now. I mean, so much. What we are living through right now is crazy cakes. So give yourself a break, take a breath, give your body a break, and just give everything some grace and some patience and some love, because this is a really, really, really really intense time right now.
It is. Yeah. We're gonna do good. So I really do feel that everything's gonna work out really well. It's just kind of going with the flow at this time. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of lessons in this time right now. A
mhm.
lot of lessons, a lot of stuff about letting go, detaching, observing. It's very interesting, and we just have to apply some of that same things to our own experience with our body when sometimes things come up that are not always comfortable.
Right. Definitely. Well, thank you. I appreciate you
welcome.
taking time out of your day. And I hope everybody enjoyed that. I definitely enjoyed that. I'm sure Anna enjoyed that. And we'll see you all soon.